Next is the competing values and principles. So the ethical dilemma in Go's case is complicated by several competing values and principles, which highlight the moral complexity of situations. So here we have transparency versus privacy, individual rights versus greater good, and accountability versus power dynamics. No? So the first one, this is the primary conflict within the case. So the need for transparency in government operation often clashes with the individual's rights to privacy. While the public has the legitimate interest in understanding potential misconduct among its officials, these needs must be balanced against the imperative to protect individuals' privacy rights. Striking a balance between these competing interests is crucial for ensuring fair investigative process in upholding ethical standard in governance. For example, Alice Go's rights to privacy might be outweighed by transparency since she was mayor then and all public officials were subject to public scrutiny and accountability. Kumbaga po, the point here is that you being a mayor or public official, you should be transparent to the people you serve, 'di ba? Instead na protektahan mo yung privacy mo, 'di ba? So you should be open, 'di ba? Kung anong, for example, yung pag-declare mo ng SALN, 'di ba? It was for transparency. No, hindi mo na kung wala ka namang tinatago, 'di ba? Though yun nga may individual rights no to privacy, but it was mandated by the laws and government policies na mag-declare ka ng SALN mo and any other financial reports na kailangan. So that's transparency versus privacy, no. So pangalawa naman, individual rights versus greater good. So this represents a significant ethical tensions. The considerations surrounding Go's alleged corruptions involve a conflict between protecting her individual rights and addressing the broader societal implications of her actions. So ensuring justice for Go as a person accused of wrongdoing must be weighed against the necessity of safeguarding the community from corruptions and potential abuses of power. So this highlights the moral complexity of ethical decision making where the protection of individual rights can sometimes conflict with the greater good of society. Yun na nga. So yung greater good dito was that if the people calls for accountability, then that has a greater good for us as being public officials, no, as being mayor. So yung individual rights niya might not be, tawag dito, as a common person, di ba? So parang kung wala kang tinatago, you face the allegations or the charges against you, di ba? Face it in the court and then, di ba? You fight battle with legal remedies. So that's individual rights versus greater good. So ito yung pangatlo, accountability versus power dynamics. The principle plays a critical role in ethical dilemma, the necessity of upholding public officials accountable for their actions often clashes with the power dynamics that can shield them from scrutiny. So this raises the ethical imperative of governmental institutions to enforce accountability, ensuring that all officials, regardless of their status, are subject to the same standard of ethical conduct. Upholding accountability is essential for maintaining public trust and promoting ethical leadership and governance. For example, the Office of the Ombudsman has ordered the suspension of Banban Tarlac Mayor Alice Go and two others for up to 6 months in connections with a graft charge filed by the DILG. So the suspension was issued as their continued stay in office may prejudice the investigations of the case filed against them. The ombudsman stated. Yun na nga po, 'di ba? So often ang nangyayari kasi na napoprotektahan nila, no, yung kanilang sarili from investigations, no, or na-influensya nila yung process ng investigation kasi nga nare-remain sila sa posisyon while the case are pending or in process. Ngayon, ang standard ng government ngayon, no, once na may final sa'yo na case, and then effective immediately, no, pag nakitaan nila ng probable cause, then effective immediately, preventive, suspended ka for 6 months. So yun nga, para hindi mo ma-influensyahan yung process ng investigations. And if I may use the words of the ombudsman, no, kasi nga daw po, their continued stay in office may prejudice the investigation of the case. So that's why. So next is for the possible solutions, no, or alternative course of action in the Philippine government perspective. Number 1 is strengthen interagency coordinations in intelligence sharing. So that's number 1. Number 2, expand victim support in rehabilitation programs. And number 3, enhance anti-trafficking legislations and penalties. So, ang number 1 po natin, no, which is also the best ACA na napili namin. So, yun na lang po yung i-discuss ko. I will be discussing it thoroughly. So, the Philippine government can enhance the Interagency Council Against Trafficking or yung ICATS na tinatawag, effectiveness by improving collaborations and intelligence sharing among its members, agencies, local government units, and international partners. So, ang advantage po na una, enhanced detections and response. So, better coordination can lead to faster detections of trafficking networks, including hidden operations linked to high-profile individuals. Pangalawa, resources optimizations. So, consolidated resources among agencies prevent duplications of efforts, allowing for more efficient use of funds and personnel. Pangatlo, increased prosecutions. So, improved intelligence sharing leads to stronger cases, increasing the likelihood of successful prosecution. So, that's the advantage of strengthening interagency coordination and intelligence sharing. Ang disadvantage naman, resource demand. So this approach requires investment in technology, personal training, and infrastructure to facilitate effective information sharing system. Pangalawa, jurisdictional challenges. So legal and procedural differences among agencies may complicate the smooth flow of information. And pangatlo, risk of data breaches. Increased information sharing may increase the risk of sensitive data. So yun po yung disadvantage ng strengthen interagency coordination and intelligence sharing. So pangalawa po na ECA, expand victim support and rehabilitations. So it will be focusing on yung pag-expand ng rehabilitation services for trafficking survivors, and this ECA would involve interagency council against trafficking or yung ICAT, providing comprehensive victim-centered programs including legal aid, counseling, shelter, and job training. So ano ko na lang yung advantage niya po, no. So we have una po yung victim empowerment, pangalawa yung advantage niya is victim empowerment, pangalawa social reintegrations, pangatlo positive public perceptions, pang-apat ang disadvantage niya naman po is high financial costs. Number 2, scalability issues. Number 3, limited immediate impact on trafficking reduction, kasi nga ano na siya, after na siya, hindi siya proactive. So enhance anti-trafficking legislations and penalties, ito po yung pangatlo. So strengthening existing trafficking laws with focus on high-profile offenders and institution could deter potential traffickers and hold public officials accountable. Advantage niya po, greater deterrence. Pangalawa, reinforce accountability. Pangatlo, aligns with international standards. Ang disadvantage niya naman po, lengthy legislative process, potential for misuse, enforcement challenges. So, ang pinili po namin dito among the three was the first one, kasi nga po, yung number 2, yung expand victim support and rehabilitations, hindi po siya proactive eh. So, ibig sabihin, it's more on rehabilitations, reintegrations of the victim. So, hindi po na-address yung problema mismo. Pangatlo naman, yung enhanced anti-trafficking legislation and penalties. Actually po, maganda na yung batas na na-mention kanina, no? It was already, kumbaga, naka-define na everything ng mga offenses or crimes doon, no? Yung qualified, attentive. So, it was already, kumbaga, maganda na yung foundations ng batas natin. And marami pang ibang batas na would help na to to deter no yung mga human trafficking violators natin. So hindi rin siya best for us na piliin yung number 3 kasi nga marami ng batas na magaganda puro na lang paggawa ng batas na magaganda. The problem talaga is yung implementation. So that's why pinili namin is yung number 1, which is to strengthen interagency coordination and intelligence sharing. So yun nga po, after a thorough analysis, alternative course of action, number 1, strengthening interagency coordination and intelligence sharing stand out the most effective strategy to combat human trafficking in the Philippines. This approach leverages the collective strength of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking or yung ICAT, fostering a collaborative environment that allows each member agency to contribute its specific expertise. Enhanced coordination leads to a comprehensive approach that addresses both prevention and prosecutions of trafficking cases. So, a robust intelligence sharing framework under ICAT enhance the government capability to detect trafficking networks, dismantle organized crime, and deter potential offenders. So, when the agencies such as law enforcement, immigration, and social services can share real-time information on suspected traffickers and patterns of trafficking, it allows for faster, more coordinated responses to emerging threats. Additionally, a shared intelligence platform can pool resources and minimize duplication of efforts, leading to more sufficient case handling and optimized use of government funds. Strengthening interagency collaborations not only improves the prosecution of traffickers but also reinforces preventive measures by identifying and mitigating vulnerabilities exploited by the traffickers. So through this approach, ICAT can engage in joint operations, risk assessment, and preventive interventions, allowing for a proactive and decisive actions across multiple jurisdictions. So ultimately, ACA number 1 represents a sustainable, holistic solutions that builds a strong, unified front against human trafficking, supporting both swift justice for offenders and greater protection for vulnerable individuals. So that concludes my report. Thank you, ma'am.
So let us now proceed to the recommendation of how are we going to achieve a successful implementation of the best alternative course of action that we have chosen, which is to strengthen interagency coordination and intelligence sharing. So as Mr. Gonzaga discussed earlier, this approach aims to enhance the effectiveness of government agencies sa pag-combat po ng mga complex crimes such as human trafficking and para po ma-ensure yung public accountability. So the following recommendations outline the implementation of this initiative. So we have 5 recommendations, which are to develop a centralized data intelligence platform. So we have listed 5 recommendations, which are to develop a centralized data intelligence platform, regular interagency training workshops, forge international partnerships, allocate dedicated budget for technology and personnel, and lastly, to implement a stronger oversight mechanisms. So let's talk about the first recommendation, which is to develop a centralized data intelligence platform. So our government can establish a secure centralized database that is accessible by member agencies of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking. This platform will facilitate a real-time sharing of information related to trafficking activities, profile of traffickers, and victim assistance efforts. So this will enhance data integration that will improve the speed and accuracy of investigations. So next would be a regular interagency training workshop. So pagkakaroon po ng mga trainings and workshops. Our government can conduct a collaborative training sessions para po ma-strengthen yung coordination among agencies. This workshop should focus po sa pag-identify ng mga trafficking indicators, pag-establish po ng unified investigation protocols, and of course, para po ma-ensure yung efficient case handling across jurisdictions. Next would be forge international partnerships. This will strengthen alliances po with foreign law enforcement agencies pati na rin po sa international organizations. So these partnerships will facilitate po yung mga joint operations, extradition processes, pati na rin po yung cross-border intelligence sharing, were very crucial for addressing transnational crimes like trafficking and money laundering. So next would be allocate dedicated budget po para po sa technology and personnel. So our government can invest in advanced data analytic tools, cybersecurity measures, and pati na rin po sa recruitment ng mga specialist in trafficking and intelligence management. So yung pag-adequate po ng mga resources kagaya po ng mga nabanggit ko, this will definitely ensure that sustainable and efficient operation of the centralized intelligence platform is happening. So last, yung pag-implement po ng strong oversight mechanisms. This will establish a oversight bodies po para mag-monitor ng mga data sharing practices and para po mag-ensure ng accountability. So this will prevent misuse of intelligent resources, pati na rin po yung mga safeguard sensitive information that will foster public trust in our governance system. So in conclusion for this part po, this recommendation that we have provided are crucial po para po sa successful implementation ng aming napiling alternative course of action, which is to strengthen interagency coordination and intelligence sharing that aims to enhance yung effectiveness ng ating government agencies sa pag-combat ng mga complex crimes such as human trafficking and tax evasion and para po ma-ensure yung public accountability in our government.
Now, for the conclusion, Alice Go was a former mayor of Bamban Tarlac ay na-dismiss na po from her position due to the serious allegation. These include corruption, human trafficking, and also connection for the Philippine offshore gaming operators or mas kilalang POGO. Such opposition po have raised a significant concern about her integrity and sustainability for holding the office, knowing na naging mayor po siya ng Bamban in Tarlac po. Okay, this situation po highlights the critical needs for transparency, accountability, and ethical governance in local government. In this case po, in Alice Go, underscores kung paano ba nating ang ating local governance na can be vulnerable for exploitation for illicit interest po. This also emphasizes for the importance of having a strong oversight mechanism and also ethical decision making processes to prevent such issue might happen in future. Ensuring that also that public officials also adhere the high standards of integrity na mahalaga po talaga para ma-maintain ang public trust and also the effective governance. Now, next presenter po.
So moving forward po sa last part ng aming presentations, which is broader implications for public administration and governance. So yung case po ni Alice Go, this is the best example kung saan yung mga ethical challenges na nangyayari in public administration. So when personal interests clash with public duties. So her alleged involvement in corruption, ties to POGO operations, and pati na rin po sa human trafficking, it highlights the need for robust system para po mag-prevent ng corruption, mag-enhance ng transparency, and para ma-ensure yung accountability in our government. This case is complex. Sobrang dami nangyari sa isang kaso lang. Itong case ni Alice Go, it serves a significant reminder of the ethical and governance challenges that are facing by public administrators. And by strengthening interagency coordination and intelligence sharing, we can address these challenges more effectively and ensure that the governance systems are equipped to prevent misconduct and uphold the rule of law. So let this case guide us in building a more transparent, accountable, and ethical governance framework for the future as future public administrators. So this concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening.